What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you a discussion on brand new Egyptian god card support that was just announced to be released in the OCG. So the OCG has this product called the Prismatic God Box, which sounds really fucking epic, right? And I doubt we're going to be getting this product here in the TCG. They'll probably incorporate it in some sort of either side set, you know, like we've had with the legendary decks or something like that in the past, or maybe they'll bundle it into some sort of like legendary duelist type of set that we've also seen. But nonetheless, this opens a much wider discussion about talking about competitive support for the Egyptian gods as a whole, because not only are going to be covering the cards that were just announced, I kind of want to just talk at a deeper level as to what it really would take to see a competitive level Egyptian god deck actually see some success in our game, because these are some of the most iconic cards in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. And aside from Obelisk the Tormentor, I think back in like Frog format, like way back in the day, that was really the only chance a god card ever really did see play. So we're going to be talking about some card design fundamentals a little bit later on, but first let's start off with these brand new cards that just got announced. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So I love this artwork here because you're going to see this very soon on a card art, because that is just absolutely epic. So the first card we have here is Thunderforce Attack. And I mean, you can just look at these cards. I mean, just look how cool the art is on this. This is so awesome. Like, this is straight out of the anime. I think this is actually what the Pharaoh said when he was doing things with Slifer. So let's go ahead and see what this does. It's a quick play spell. You can only activate this card once per turn. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. Now, I gotta be honest, I am not really a fan of these types of effects that don't really allow your opponent to interact with you, because they typically lead to very degenerate or just unfun types of interaction. However, we are talking about the Egyptian god cards here. These are supposed to be the fabled, most legendary cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh universe. So if there were a time to implement that sort of mechanic, I feel like for the Egyptian god cards, I have a bit of an exception. Maybe it's just a soft spot, but you're putting all this effort into the amount of resources to summon one of these cards already, and you have to get to this card on top of it. So just that alone is just having to jump through a ton of hoops. So I feel like I have a little bit of leeway for this type of card to have that sort of, you know, text where it says your opponent can't interact with it for that reason. You guys can disagree or agree down in the comments. I think that would be a very good discussion point, but let's go ahead and read the rest of the card. So if you control a monster whose original name is Slifer the Sky Dragon, destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent currently controls as possible. Then, if this card was activated during your main phase, you can apply this effect. Draw cards equal to the number of monsters destroyed and sent to your opponent's graveyard by this effect. Also, you can attack with only one monster for the rest of this turn. That is ridiculous. So let's break that down. So at first, you can destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent controls as possible. I don't know why they restricted it solely to face-up. Like, I know in competitive terms, face-down monsters don't really see lots of play, unless you're specifically playing like a flip-oriented deck, like let's say Shadal or Guru Control. But typically, monsters aren't really going to be face-down. But couldn't have just been everything. These are the Egyptian gods we're talking about. Why are they scared of this destroying face-down monsters as well? Why did this need to have that balancing mechanic? Your opponent already can't respond to it, so like, they might as well have just gone all the way. Then I love that if you use this specifically during the main phase, you get to draw cards equal to the number of monsters destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Now, again, you could argue that this has, like, why does this have to go to the graveyard? Like, why can't it just been, if they were destroyed, you get to draw the cards, because then that has like negative synergy with cards that would like banish themselves if they leave the field, or cards that would just purposely banish stuff if they're face up, like, you know, Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, things like that. Obviously, these are niche situations, but like, I feel like this card just has like these random unnecessary restrictions on it. But the thing is, think about how big of a tempo swing is in terms of card advantage. Let's hypothetically say your opponent has 3 monsters face up on the field. You get to destroy all 3 of those, then draw 3 cards. And this makes perfect sense that you can only attack with 1 monster for the rest of this turn, because the theory behind this is the more cards you draw, the bigger an attack power Slifer is going to get, because Slifer gets 1,000 attack for every card in your hand. So you would want to be ideally attacking with the Slifer directly and probably just winning the game off of the back of that attack. But think of the circumstances, right? Not only do you have to get Slifer on the field, which is hard enough already, right? You need to get this card into your hand, and then you still need to have enough damage to be able to kill your opponent. So, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's a really powerful card. Like, it's super, super cool, but it is a bit situational because it requires a lot of things to go right, and that's not exactly how that's going to play out most of the time. So unless there's like a card that can search this, or any card that like has a god card on the card text, similar to like the Sacred Beast, I think they have some searchers that allow you to do that based on if it has like wing or just any of those names in their specific text, then that would be kind of cool, because then you have the flexibility to choose. But I just feel like they're like unnecessary restrictions for no reason on a card that already just requires a lot from you. Let's go ahead and move down to the Obelisk one here, and again, you get to see the Fist of Fate, so you see it right here, and they duplicated the artwork down here. I love it. That's just so flavorful and so cool. Let's just take a look at this artwork, because I just have to see this. Like, look how cool that looks. That's so sick. This is Fist of Fate, or in the OCG, God Hand Crusher, which is why you're never going to see that here in the TCG. So, quick play spell. You can only activate one of this card's name per turn. Again, the activation and effect of this card cannot be negated, which I am totally okay with, given the fact that these are Egyptian god-related cards. If you control a monster whose original name is Obelisk the Tormentor, negate the effects of one effect monster your opponent controls. And if you do, destroy it. And if you do that, negate for the rest of this turn the destroyed monster effects, if any, activated effects from monsters with the destroyed monster's original name, if any, and any effects on the field from monsters with the destroyed monster's original name, if any. Then, this is a really long sentence, if this card was activated during your main phase, you can apply this effect. Destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. So basically, this is a way to negate the effects of a monster. You get to then destroy the monster. You basically just erase all of that monster from existence, because any effects it has are negated. You can't even use multiple copies of it. This card just says no to whatever that card is destroying. It is just ridiculous. And then if that happened during your main phase specifically, you get to Harpy's Feather Duster your opponent. So again, really, really cool card. It's nice that they have this sort of effect negation type of effect. It's also a disruption because it will destroy the monster as well. But the issue I have here is, why do you only get the second part if it's activated during your main phase? Again, we're talking about the Egyptian god cards here. If you are, first of all, A, playing Obelisk, and B, manage to get it on the field, and C, are able to get this card into your hand after doing all that and hoping that didn't go awry, then I feel like you should have the ability to negate a monster effect, blow it up, and Harpy's Feather Duster your opponent. That's just me, maybe, I don't know, but for the amount of commitment these cards require, I just think it's absurd that they still have these types of restrictions. I do love that it's a quick play spell. Both of these are quick play spells, as a matter of fact, so you can just do this whole board wipe during your opponent's turn. But the thing is, you don't get the draw effect on the Slifer one if you did it during your opponent's main phase. So it has this versatility that you can use it during your opponent's turn, but then you don't get like the added bonus unless you did it during your main phase. I don't know how I feel about that. I think mechanically I like that card design, but I don't like that it's so specific. You know what I mean? They're Egyptian gods. They need to just be overpowered, and they're already, you know, a lot of work as it is. Let's just move on to the third and final card here. So this is Exchanging Souls. So Exchanging Souls is another quick play spell. I gotta say, I'm happy these are all quick plays at the very least. You can only activate it once per turn. During your main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon one Divine Beast monster by tributing monsters either player controls. But if you summoned it by tributing a monster your opponent controls, apply this effect. After this card resolves, you can only activate a spell card, trap card, or card effect that is not a Divine Beast monster effect once each turn until the end of the next turn. Okay, I want to start by saying this is 100% the best card of the three. The reason for that is because it mitigates the largest problem that the Egyptian God cards have, in that you need to have 3 monsters tributed in order to summon them. Is that enough? Not really, because from the perspective of card advantage, your opponent has to play into this for this card to work. Now, you could summon 2 monsters, use this, and tribute your opponent's 3rd monster, but in an ideal circumstance, the best way that this would work is that your opponent has 3 monsters, you have none, and then you activate this and then contribute it. This doesn't have the effect where your opponent can't respond to the activation of it, and maybe that would have been a little bit too broken, but again, these are the Egyptian gods, so like, it's a weird trade-off there. I really wish that, I don't know if I wish that actually, that might be a little bit too broken, but you're restricted to Divine Beast, so there's only a few monsters you could really choose from. Again, you need to draw Exchanging Souls plus the God card for this to work. It would be actually a very interesting board-breaking type of card if that were the case, and again, it has this restriction on it that you can only activate a spell card, trap card, or card effect that is not a Divine Beast monster effect once each turn until the end of the next turn. Not just the end of the turn, the end of the next turn. So even if you did this during your opponent's turn, when your turn comes back around, you can only use one of those types of effects that the card describes. So again, they're putting these unnecessary limitations on this card. I will say this one probably solves one of the biggest issues, which is needing to tribute monsters, but it's reliant on your opponent having the monsters to provide for you. Now, if you're going like playing a going second God deck for some reason, then that kind of makes sense, because technically, you could just go ahead and use this, and if your opponent doesn't have any way to negate a spell effect, you can clear your opponent's whole board and summon like an Obelisk, and that's not bad. But again, are you really going to play this over something like Sphere Mode? Because this requires a 2-card investment. Sphere Mode's only 1 card, and Sphere Mode kind of does it better, if I'm going to be completely honest. So you have to look at this in context of like what other cards would be filling the same role as this. But I think Exchanging Souls definitely goes in the right direction when it comes to the Egyptian God support. It needs to be something that is so overtly broken to counteract all the downsides that the Egyptian God cards come with. Like, they need to have like these sort of like vassals like the monarchs have, where they can just basically like summon tokens or be used as multiple tributes. So then that way, let's say you have like an Obelisk, vassal of fiends or something like that, and you're able to use him as 2 or 3 tributes to summon a God card, and maybe you do that, but then Obelisk, you know, gets sent to the graveyard at the end of the turn. So there's ways that they could potentially balance it, but you need ways to just cheat these monsters onto the field for these cards that are above to be really powerful, and I just don't think it's quite there yet. And again, there's not even a card that searches these as far as I'm aware, and so that's another problem, right? So even if you want to use this cool effect negation card or this cool board wipe card, you don't have the means to get there because you're just hoping you blindly draw it off of the top of your deck. I wish there was just some searcher that could actually get you there. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for my discussion on the brand new Egyptian God support. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.